Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Sisto Says, powered by Design 2147, a New York City building and code consulting firm. I have Julia Maksimova from KW Commercial. Julia is a repeat guest. How you doing, Julia?
I'm great, Sisto. How are you? Thanks for having me again.
Of
I
course,
appreciate
of course, and that's the great part of we get to see each other quite often as members of BizDevel. We uh, we get to talk a lot about the real estate world, and your specialty is retail, commercial, and you always provide great insight because I always feel when I speak to you that you're the boots on the ground. You get the vibe, and being a commercial real estate agent here in New York City is not easy. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people vying for space. But when you have the reputation that you have, you do get some great deals. But you also get both sides. You get the user side and you get the landlord side. So today,
Right.
I wanted to pick your brain because we talk about everything but retail. And that's kind of, you come on the, other people come on the show and they want to jump into our office is back. Well, who cares, right? I get tired of hearing always about the offices. And then the other part is, oh, the 485X, the 421A. And that seems to have, it's starting to bore me a little bit. Not that everybody wants to talk about it, but today I wanted to talk about, you know, where is the retail market at? We walk around New York City, we see a lot of really great stuff going on, and then we walk down the street and go, "Oh my God, that these places are desolate." So fill us in
Mm.
on the different pieces, big, small, and large.
Right. Let's go back quickly for to last year. It's actually very interesting to see that last year's activity was very strong. I think we had about 16 million of square feet leased. And this year, first half of the year, we're on track already at 7.5 million. So that just shows you that the market is very active,
Hmm.
right? And a lot of people say, well, I walk around and I see a lot of vacancy and retail is dead. That's actually not the case.
Really?
Like you said, there's some areas that are very in demand and are very active. And usually those are spaces that are getting leased that are 5,000 square feet and under.
Right.
Anything above 5,000 square feet is tough. Anything above 10,000 square feet is even tougher.
Hmm.
So you have that, and then you have, non-prime corridors that are making it even more challenging. So you really need to be a destination retailer, which is, you have so many options to be one as far as space.
Right.
But for a great location, you're in competition.
Got you.
So,
So it's so
it's
the old
it's a
adage,
mixed market.
yeah,
It's
the
a
old
mixed market.
adage of location, location, location holds true. So tell us a little bit about the 10,000 square foot plus, because I remember many years ago we were fighting with city planning that they would require us to be a big box store and how difficult it was because everybody wanted to be that 10,000. And now it seems that the 10,000 square foot store, and I think a lot of it has to do with obviously online shopping and things like that, they don't really need that experience of this monster store anymore. Is that
Mm.
is that kind of the sense of what we have?
That's pretty accurate. The 10,000 square foot store, the 20,000, like 10,000 and up is your pharmacy footprint. So think Rite Aid,
Yeah,
think
CVS.
Walgreens, think Joanne Reed, right? And those guys have merged. So there's been a lot of redundancy in their real estate. And we've had, I think, over 35 of their locations come on the market in the last couple of years.
To get
And those are
repurposed.
10,000 plus. Yeah. So you have about, 300 and whatever it is, 70, 80,000 square feet that are coming online and are of that larger footprint above 10,000 square feet. Like I said, the real demand right now is for 5,000 and under. That's your sweet spot. Like 2 to 3 is the hottest. I have clients in the food and beverage space, multiple locations, great balance sheets, have money, looking for great space. You can't find it, right? In
Yeah,
that two to 3,000 square foot.
right. I got a call today for and we've done a bunch of them, coffee shops. You know, we've done multiple, and their sweet spot is less than 5,000. You know,
For sure. a lot of F&B is less than five. I mean, you have the bigger restaurant groups that do take like Taos of the world. They do take larger space, but a lot of the volume is in the under 5,000. And there's interesting sort of dynamics between tourism being back. So
Right.
we've had you know, almost pre-COVID levels of tourism. Back to office, right? The stuff that you already hate hearing about.
Yeah.
Everybody's back. We're back. We're back 3 times a week. We're back five. Some people are back 5 times a week, right?
Right.
And especially in with JP Morgan Tower, all those employees, they're going to need that, food and
Sure.
beverage experience. They want to come out of the office. I mean, also they get deliveries, but there's been a greater demand from office, from obviously from tourism, and also because of conversions, which you also probably hate hearing
Well,
about.
but they're finally getting done. At least it's
They
not as
are,
yeah.
but there's so many square feet. My point is there's so many square feet taken offline. Just like when we talk about the office leasing market, right? Your supply has been shrunk, right? You
Right.
have a building that's being converted. A lot of times it's being converted to luxury residential, where the retail that used to occupy maybe the ground, second, and the basement now is part of the amenity space. So maybe
Correct.
it's the lobby, right? So you have a lot of sort of supply shrinkage, and then demand is still high for that sweet spot that I just mentioned. Above, call it 10,000 square feet, that's harder. Deals are still happening. Old Navy on 34th Street, Burlington Coat Factory just renewed in Chelsea with GFP. There's been quite a few deals, which is great to see, that are like the Petco space that we previously talked about, that you mentioned. Those are larger spaces and they're being released or they're being renewed, but there's not just they're
Right.
not
But
as often.
we found some of them will leave a building and go a block and a half away.
Because they can get a better deal.
Whether it's a better deal, sometimes they're
Smaller footprint.
right, or they're closer to the train station, they're closer to the bus station. Location, location, location. Yeah,
Yes.
even in our office, we don't really specialize a lot in retail, but we do some major players. We do Home Depots, we do Target. We've done two beautiful stores. We just finished on the Upper East Side, on Madison Avenue, luxury stores, beautiful. And that market seems to have a lot of bite. The
Yes.
luxury market seems
Right.
that even if they're not selling stuff, it's all about just having the presence on Madison Avenue or on Fifth Avenue. Because when you walk up and down Madison and Fifth, there's not many retail stores, big or small, that are available.
That's correct. Fifth Avenue, Madison Avenue, parts of Soho, those are all prime, prime, prime locations. And for a brand that's still a statement to have a New York store, that's your global flagship,
Right,
so to speak. So even if it's not making as much money, it's a marketing expense.
right,
And the rent on those streets, what used to be over 1,000 a foot pre-COVID, now we're looking at maybe 700 to 800, but still the rents have been going up. Um,
well,
and also we haven't had a lot of new construction, so the
right,
supply again is not as robust. So you're left with what's available, which is not much.
right. So let's talk about that, because I think you hit on the point. People say it's back, right, or it's on its way back. I speak to Andrew Peters a lot from Curry and Brown, and we talk about, so Andrew, what are you estimating these days? And he says, Sister, believe it or not, we're doing a lot of retail. That there's uh, a lot of brands that want to get into the New York City market. Um, so when we say it's on its way back, and then you talk to the other side of it, which is the landlord, they go, "Well, it never made it back to pre-COVID," right? So are we inching closer to that? Are the prices starting, because of the demand, and there's not
Yes.
enough supply? Do the numbers start to go in an upward direction?
Yes. So we're I think year to date from last year we're at 2% increase in rents. I mean, it's still below consumer price index, but it's going up, right? We're not seeing a decline in rents overall, and especially in those prime quarters where the supply is just so limited.
Right,
Landlords are getting very good numbers and they have more leverage. It's becoming again a landlord's market. What used to be a tenant's market since COVID,
right.
it's coming back to becoming where the landlords have the upper hand in negotiations,
Well,
and they're
and
giving less concessions and um,
a
more
lot of that is
stricter.
true when we talk about office to residential conversion, right? Because even though there were offices above on the first floor, it was retail. Well, now they vacated those buildings. We just picked up another one to do in Midtown to do an office to residential conversion. The whole building is empty. I mean, they got all the retailers out. Some of the ones we looked at, some anchor tenants said, no, we'll stay during construction because they tried to go find another space for the price they were paying. It didn't make any sense. So, there is this balance of, hey, if you eliminate retail, that means you're taking more square footage off the market, which means prime pieces may not be available for that. Um, what
Yeah,
are
same.
you?
I mean, we're going back to your favorite topic of office, but that's exactly what happened to office, right? You have so many square feet, but 250, whatever, maybe 100,000 minimum being taken offline. Your supply and demand is shifting very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen an influx of RFPs for our work related to office of other companies that had their main offices on the perimeter of New York City, whether they were in Jersey or Westchester or Long Island. And now they're like, hey, the prices aren't so bad. We can have our main corporate office in Midtown. This makes a lot of sense. We could be near Grand Central. All our CEOs, all our CFOs, they can get here. We could have meetings here. It really makes sense. But prior to that, I had asked them, so why weren't you in the New York City? They said because it was just too expensive. It was just
That's
too
very true.
expensive. Um,
And once the office comes and the residential, that's where you need the retail to come in. And that's where retail fills in the vacancies that might have been sitting there for a while,
Well,
right? Like
and I
look at
think that
Hudson
a lot
Yards.
of the small, we've had this discussion before, right, Julia? That back in the, after COVID, when nobody was in the office, how is the small retailer going to stay in business if no one's at the office? They're not selling sandwiches. They're not selling coffee. People aren't shopping. People aren't doing things. By the way, you still owe me my shopping trip.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
Is they're not at lunchtime going to buy, things that they need, going to CVS or going down the street. So, that small mom and pop shop that didn't have those big margins to work with, they were out of business. Well, we need them to come back. I mean, and that's where I think a lot of the stores are different. We've done some stores now where it's only a small part of sales, and the rest of it is like this, interacting with their product, not
Right.
actually selling their product. Videos and shows, and people come in and they buy it online, but they get to come in the store and experience it. So there's been a shift in that too. It's a different way of selling things.
Oh, for sure. I think they need that in-person connection, and they also want to see the product. It's one thing to really look at it online and maybe look at the
Right.
price, but the reality can be very different. And I think people kind of got sick of online shopping since COVID because
Yeah.
that's all they did,
Right.
right? They ran to online shopping, but then quickly, the desire for that kind of dried
Yeah.
out and they're back into stores.
Yeah, and I know myself, I like to go in the store. I like the experience of the store. I
Mhm.
like to look at something and go, "Oh, I would have never bought that online because I couldn't really see it or
Even
feel it." Or
find it.
right. So here we are, uh, 2025. We're going into 2026. Uh, we touched on it on my last show. Um, we're going to get a new administration. Things are going to be maybe different, maybe the same, but everything we read about always has, regardless, in real estate, changes in administration, changes anywhere, presidential
Right.
elections, mayor elections, they shift real estate. Um, and I was curious that have you seen or heard um, landlords being worried or retailers being worried about signing leases?
I would say even before the change in mayoral administration, the tariffs really impacted retailers.
Really?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've had deals that they had manufacturing in China, high quality product, but China
Of
manufacturing.
course.
This one, for example, company was menswear, and we were looking at a store in Flatiron, which is also hard to find
Oh,
and great
absolutely.
location. And they decided not to move forward because to lease a store you need to put down the deposit, you need to fix the store. I mean, it takes a big investment to
Oh,
open a location
100%.
in Manhattan, it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of nuances to it, and they decided not to do the deal this year to see how what they need to do on their production side, and
Well,
then
and that's a perfect example where there is definitely a correlation between, hey, I sell this product for $29.99, but if there's a tariff on it and I got to sell it for $39.99, well, maybe people just won't buy it. It's just out of for that product for that tariff has a direct implication on that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
we
we've seen that already. But as far as just upcoming political changes, I would say mostly affects investment sales. Um, because people are waiting to see what's going to happen to the
correct.
politics and to see how the values will be affected in commercial real estate, the value of a retail condo or a building that's heavily retail, for example, if we're
Right.
talking about retail scenarios. But in general, the investment sales are kind of on a pause until things shake out, and that kind of goes for any
Yeah,
asset
for us,
class,
we,
including
we
retail.
saw the opposite on the resi market. We saw the opposite where developers came to us and said, accelerate, accelerate.
That's when you had 421A. That was
Right, but I'm
because
talking about like right now, they're like, hey, is there any way we can get our permit
they
in
already own the
place?
sites.
Right,
Yes.
because not, and I don't think, I always say this that I don't think there's this direct correlation, but there's this fear that something may change. And they don't even know what it is. Well,
It's an
no one's going to
uncertainty.
become the mayor and in 2 days the world is going to change. It takes time, right? But yet there's this feeling of, oh, there's a change coming. So let's hurry up. Let's slow down. Let's move left. Let's move right. Let's go up. Let's go down. Like there's this sense of chaos. And I never understand it because developers always develop and
Right.
landlords always rent and people always rent their spaces. And, a lot of talking about, retail, that there's spaces that come in, there's spaces that come out, and the location seems to be a big driver right now. Like you said, those primo spots, Soho, Tribeca, here in Midtown, if they have a prime location, they're going to rent it. And maybe they won't rent it the way they would love to get the price that they
Right.
used to get, but there's still a market for it. There's competition for it. They're not just lowballing it and giving it away.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they're still on the upswing of rents. So, like you said, maybe they're not getting the rents they really desire, but they're still making it work. And a lot of those owners are generational and they don't have, most of them don't have a bank breathing down their neck
Correct.
because that has already been shaken out, that part of ownership type. So by now, these are people that can really wait and kind of hold off and negotiate from the position of power.
Correct. Like some of my clients, I'm like, space has been empty for 2.5 years. He goes, because we can afford to.
Right.
Right. So
There's a lot
like
of
you said, if there's
generational.
no bank going, hey, what's going on? You owe us, hundreds of millions in your places and you're behind on the payments, then they're going to put pressure. But if there's no pressure, they can hold out for what they see. So
Exactly.
as
I mean, one more thing, sister, I would add for just sort of macro level
sure,
um, nuances, let's call it that, is the immigration policies, again, we're going back to tourism, right?
right,
How U.S. is viewed in the world's arena, political arena. So, and the dollar being weaker now, there's been a lot of conversation of tourists going to Asia now. America's becoming expensive.
correct.
So, or also the political climate is not as favorable for the
Yeah,
US, for the tourists that come into US.
sure.
So there's a little bit of that would affect tourism, which in fact affects retail sales.
Oh, there's no question that in New York City, tourism is tremendous.
Oh yeah.
And again, when you look at you look at parts of Italy where they're actually boycotting tourism because these little towns never had so many people coming there. They don't even know how to handle it. We're feeling the opposite end. Look, I'm not going to lie. I went away with my wife this weekend, and we were up in Canada. It was our 36th anniversary. We went up to Niagara Falls, but we actually went because I wanted to go visit the Frank Lloyd Wright buildings that are there. And it's funny, you never thought once about going over to Canada with your passport and coming back. And I said to my wife, this is the first time, I'm 60 years old, that I felt like, are they going to tell me I can't come back into my own country? And that's pretty scary. We joke about it, but it's pretty scary, right? You and you don't know, and that, I don't care who we are, when it's in the media that way, and people will not travel the same way they used to travel to New York City. There's a domino effect around everything. How much tax they collect, how many retailers know that at Times Square they want a piece of the pie. That's always been this incredible place that even if you're not selling anything, you just want your sign up so everybody could see it around the world, right? So you
Oh
know
yeah.
that market better than anyone else. So as we go forward, we're going to go into 2026, thank God, hopefully healthy. And what's your prediction? Do you think that it's going to get there's going to be less space available and higher prices for a new retailer to come into New York City?
I think again we're going back to the basics of supply and demand. We don't have a lot of supply coming off online for retail, right? So your supply is constrained. The demand is a mix between those more experiential concepts or service concepts. So we've seen a lot of doggy related
Right,
brands that are coming in and expanding, med spa, so a little bit different uses that service the residential needs of
right,
locals. So, and then you have the food and beverage, maybe not as many drugstores, but once you cut up those stores, if you can, not
right.
always you can, they're going to be leased, right?
Sure.
Those are not 30,000, 50,000 square foot stores. So I think supply is constrained, demand hopefully is going to get adjusted to the tariffs, and retailers are going to figure out their formulas and restructure their manufacturing, right, which most of them by now have or
Have.
have
Well, that's a
tried
big,
to.
that's a
It's a big
booming market.
undertaking. It is.
The industrial
It's a lot.
market's booming because they cut so much
Right,
of it
because
out.
they have to bring it here.
Right. So I have a question for you. One thing that we've seen a lot of over the last several months, Julia, is especially in Brooklyn and in Queens, and even a few in
Mhm.
Manhattan, where uses that were not normally permitted in a building on the retail on the ground floor, through the city of Yes, they've allowed different use groups now to move around a little bit. And I found that it was very interesting of how many questions we've got about it. Can I have a funeral parlor in this district now? Can I do a day spa, a medi spa? Can we do and it was, they're not the normal, F&B or a clothing store. It's these
Right.
creative ideas of this new retail market that wasn't, to be honest, wasn't really thought of even for the people who wrote the zoning resolution a long time ago. So it's definitely evolved. Uh, uh,
Yes, for sure. You have to evolve, like we said before. It has to be experiential. People either have to need to go there, want to go there, right? Because if you have a dog, you probably, and if you're, you need grooming, you need doggy
and after
daycare, you
COVID,
need,
so
right,
many people.
hoteling services. There's so many of these, needed, need-based retailers. And then you have your virtual reality type of retailers or entertainment type of retailers where You can't do that online, right?
Right.
Oculus was fun until it wasn't, right? Those glasses.
Yeah.
I got them during COVID and I got bored in 2 minutes. They
Right.
were $700.
Yeah,
So
I saw
I'd
them.
rather go in a store.
Yeah, I saw them at the outlets. They were trying to give them away. But you're right.
It's not
It's
the same.
definitely
This is
evolved.
Yeah. So those kinds of retailers that will adjust and are adjusting and are innovating will win, providing good experience, again, diversifying away from just, experience of online shopping, right? As long as you're creating more value. And there's been a lot of conversation about building community. Like, look at, I don't know, Aloe Yoga. That became a cult brand. And I mean, it took them a while, but they have a community
Right.
following, sort of like a cult, right? So people go into the store, they have yoga classes, they do wellness type of, workshops and
Sure.
whatnot. They have a studio. So it's an experience that's different from online, even for clothing, right? That people want to go to.
Right. The other thing that we've noticed also is that a lot of the clothing and even different stores, they not only sell clothing, but they have these like a community center where they
Yeah.
have, conferences, they have education things, and it's part of the brand, right? So
Yes.
here you are, you're selling this, but hey, on Tuesday nights, we do this, everyone's invited. Now, is it per the C of O? I have no idea, and I don't really care. But that's one of the ways that they've meshed selling a product and bringing the community in, and that's a great point because I think that people want more than just I want to
A
buy
click.
it. I want to buy a pair of shoes. Um,
Right.
well, this is
Also,
great.
listen, we're in a digital world between TikTok, Instagram, where
Oh, forget
people
it.
are always on their phone, and I think the loneliness levels are all-time highs. I mean, look at kids; they're all on their phone. I didn't have a phone growing up. I mean, when I was 13, I got a phone, but before that, there was no phone.
Right.
You go outside and you play, you talk to your friends.
Well,
Now
listen, you
everybody's on their phone, so everybody's lonely.
well, listen, case in point, I'm doing a podcast, right? You'd be amazed at how many people tune into this podcast while they're on the train. Oh, Julia's on. Oh, let me see what the retail world is about today. And then show before this was a gentleman who did landmarks preservation. And it's amazed at how many texts and things I get because that's what we do now. And they know if
Mhm.
you go to Sisto Says and you've watched 3 or 4 of them, they're going to feed it to you as much as they can feed it to you until you keep clicking it. So you're right. But yet I still think that there is this old school part of just spending the day out, walking down the street, stopping in a store, and just browsing and making a day
Yeah.
of it, and stopping at the little cafe and having your glass of wine and making a day of it. And I hope New York City never loses that because I think that's part of its fabric. But
I was by NYU over the weekend and I kind of stepped into Soho. It was vibing.
oh,
It was lively, it was busy, there were tourists, there were locals, people were shopping. It's a feeling you can't really have that
there's
online.
no
There's nothing that online pop-up windows can do to recreate that. It's
no
just not the same.
that vibe can't be recreated. It just can't. But as always, Julia, it's a pleasure to be a member with you at Biz Devel. We always have great conversations. We get introduced to wonderful people. A big success of my show was joining Biz Devel and meeting people like yourself that are subject matter experts in the field that they're in. Yours in the commercial real estate world, and being in New York City is not easy. It's not easy. So I appreciate you
It's
taking the
always
time.
exciting.
I
Thank you,
thank you for
sister. We love
taking.
having you in Festival also.
Oh, thank you. Uh, I appreciate that, and always a pleasure to have you on the show. So you've made it 2 years in a row. I love it, and I love the
It's been
forecast.
a year already. Woo,
Yes,
time
time
flies.
flies. But thank you very much, and we'll have you on again.
Thank you, sister. It was my pleasure.
Take care.